Hello YouTube. I'll bet many of you were expecting my next video to be part 14 of my anti-candidate video series. But something came up. Don't worry though, I'll still get to that video, but for now, I want to give my thoughts on these comments regarding autism made by radio talk show host Michael Savage. Now for those of you who aren't familiar, Michael Savage is the third highest rated political talk show host on radio, with Sean Hannity in second place and Rush Limbaugh in first. Like many of his fellow nutjobs, both on his and the other side of the political aisle, he's said many things which, to put it bluntly, are completely indefensible. One such comment is a recent comment he made about autism. I could easily read to you what he said, but even that wouldn't do it justice. So I'm going to play for you exactly what he said. So let me put my webcam a little closer to the speaker so you'll hear it. And let's press play.
Now you want me to tell you my opinion on autism, since I'm not talking about autism? A fraud. A racket. For a long while we were hearing that every minority child had asthma. Why was there an asthma epidemic amongst minority children? Because I'll tell you why. The children got extra welfare if they were disabled, and they got extra help in school. It was a money racket. Everyone went in and was told, when the nurse looks at you, you go, I don't know, the dust got me. So everyone had asthma from the minority community. That was number one. Now the illness du jour is autism. You know what autism is? I'll tell you what autism is in 99% of the cases. It's a brat who hasn't been told to cut the act out. That's what autism is. What do you mean they scream and they're silent? They don't have a father around to tell them, don't act like a moron, you'll get nowhere in life. Stop acting like a putz. Straighten up, act like a man. Don't sit there crying and screaming, idiot. Autism. Everybody has an illness. If I behaved like a fool, my father called me a fool. And he said to me, don't behave like a fool. The worst thing, he said, don't behave like a fool. Don't be anybody's dummy. Don't sound like an idiot. Don't act like a girl. Don't cry. That's what I was raised with. That's what you should raise your children with. Stop the sensitivity training. You're turning your son into a girl, and you're turning the nation into a nation of losers and beaten men. That's why we have the politicians we have.
Yes, folks, he really did say what you think he just said. Yes, according to Michael Savage, almost every case of autism is caused by a brat who hasn't been told to cut the act out. Because his father doesn't have a father to tell him to stop acting like a moron. And even added a little dash of blatant racism at the beginning to sweeten the pot. Michael Savage has said countless other things which are easily just as disrespectful. In one case, where he told a man to get AIDS and die, even more disrespectful than that. But none of those comments, as much pain as some of them may have caused, have the potential to do as much damage as this comment. And that is why I've decided to make this video in the first place. There are millions of parents every year who find out their child has autism, a number which has grown consistently for the last 20 years, and continues to grow. Many of these parents don't even have the slightest clue what autism is. They don't know who to turn to and are desperate for answers. And even many parents who have a passing knowledge of it have misconceptions about it. Not all of them may have the same misconceptions as Michael Savage, but those misconceptions can also be damaging. Now, many of us with autism, like myself and their friends and family, know that people like Michael Savage are crackpots, and understandably react to such ignorance by grabbing our torches and pitchforks and taking to the streets to protest and boycott. And as a diehard populist who is as mad as hell as to what's going on today, I must confess that I think a little mayhem is good once in a while, provided that mayhem is non-violent mayhem, of course. But in this case, I'm going to have to tell my fellow comrades to use a different plan of attack. Folks, people like Michael Savage thrive on controversy. They prove the point time and time again that there really is no such thing as bad press. Every time they say a ridiculous thing and everybody gets mad at them, in every case, with rare exceptions, like Don Imus, who got fired for making these racist remarks he made on his radio show, their ratings go up. The reason for this, of course, is human nature. People like Michael Savage have this train wreck effect on millions of people, and that even people who may despise them will listen to them anyway because they want to know what crazy thing they'll say next. And I have to confess that I'm guilty of the same thing. Once in a while I watch this news/commentary show called Countdown with Keith Olbermann. And one of my favorite segments in it is called The Worst Person in the World, which is where the host of the show, Keith Olbermann, has 3 people that he thinks have said or done something really stupid. And he tells you what they have said or done in the order of worse, worser, and worst person, and gives an often sarcastic and humorous rebuttal to what they've said or done. A good example is when the former Senator Rick Santorum, who famously compared homosexuality to, quote, man-on-dog sex, announced that he will start to write a bi-weekly political commentary column. Keith Olbermann said, "Bi-weekly? Are you sure that won't lead to man-on-dog weekly?" Of course, I got a good laugh out of that one. Of course, that's enough about my guilty pleasures, though, so, like I've said before, these people thrive on controversy, and we shouldn't feed their desire for controversy. But that doesn't mean we should ignore them, at least not in this case. In other cases, we probably should, though. By protesting and boycotting, though, we're playing into Michael Savage's hand by making this about him, when the issue is much bigger than just him. But don't worry, folks, I have an alternative plan for attack, and it is simple, and it'll have us be the victor instead of him. Now, this may sound strange, but hear me out, folks. This controversy presents a great opportunity. An opportunity to dispel the countless myths about autism that still persist and are doing great harm to people with autism and their families. And one of the best ways to do that is for us individuals with autism and family members and friends of individuals with autism to tell how it has affected us. I'll start with myself, yours truly. When I was born, other than a serious yeast infection and crooked legs because something went wrong and this bun came out of the oven, I was fine and both problems were fixed. But by age 2, I lost what little language I had and started having serious behavioral problems, many of which stemmed from my frustration with wanting something, or something bothering me but not being able to communicate what I wanted, or what was bothering me. I had loud temper tantrums when I screamed, hit and threw things, and often tried to bite, kick, and scratch anyone who tried to even touch me, even if it was my own mother. I also had sensitivities, some of which I still have to this day, to certain sights, smells, and especially sounds. My hearing was so sensitive that even sounds of a toilet flushing was just as irritating to me as nails on a chalkboard is to most of us. And trust me, this is not an exaggeration. This was often the cause of great distress for me. I was taken to the doctor and he diagnosed me with autism, which was correct, but the doctor also said I would never get an IQ past 50. And when an IQ test I took shortly after that visit revealed I already had an IQ past 50, and that I could turn into a vegetable at any time. In other words, the doctor was right about the diagnosis, but wrong about the severity of the condition. Thanks in large part to my mother fighting to get me the early intervention treatments I needed, by age 5 I was able to regain the ability to talk, my sensitivities lessened slightly, my behavior slowly started to improve. By 2nd grade I was in regular ed part-time, and by 4th grade I was in regular ed full-time with some support and excelling academically. In middle school and high school I had many challenges dealing with depression, in part from my grandmother's death, controlling my temper, and dealing with my sex drive in a responsible and socially appropriate manner. But I overcame them all and graduated high school with a 3.8 grade point average, and now attend my local community college, Palomar College. Have lived independently for 1 year and have a job at the local grocery store called Stater Brothers. We'll soon receive a promotion to grocery clerk, which is considered a stepping stone to management, after I complete checker training, of course, which is this coming Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. I shared my story, or rather the gist of it, so I challenge any of you with autism or who have a friend or relative with autism to share your story either as a text comment to this video or, if possible, a video response. Folks, our most powerful weapon is not outrage but the truth. All we need to do is use it and victory will be ours. That's all for this video, but I'm still not done speaking yet. As I've said before, Michael Savage's misconceptions are not the only misconceptions that are doing harm. So I'll post another video as a response to this video where I will set the record straight on those misconceptions and then get back to my anti-candidate video series.